Hello, and welcome to the third Earthbeat webinar for this year's project. So my name is Tarquin. I'm based in Barcelona. I'm 26 years old, and I'm one of the organizers, the youth organizers this year for the Earthbeat project. By profession, I'm a film producer and started off at the young age of 15 making my first film, maybe the age of some of the participants here. So I know how you feel. So the Earthbeat project started back in November 2020 to engage as many young people from around the world in smartphone film, storytelling, and journalism skills to ensure really that young people growing up in the middle of this crisis can participate in the conversations and actions around the climate and nature emergency. So we've teamed up with several UN agencies and youth climate action groups from across the globe, and together we are hosting workshops, a global film challenge, and running a number of events at climate conferences, including COP26. So the aim of this project really is to discover and support young filmmaking talents from around the world, and really help them to become tomorrow's directors. So we want to know who the next generation of climate storytellers really are. There are many creative and developmental opportunities available throughout the project and beyond COP26. So to stay up to date and receive more support, join many others, all part of Earthbeat, by signing up to our WhatsApp group. And I'm going to put that link in the chat at the bottom. So if you're watching this on your phone, you can just click the link and it should automatically join. So please also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, we're probably on it. So that's just a short intro about Earthbeat. Just, I think, before we start the virtual recording, which we did on Tuesday, we'll just do a bit of virtual housekeeping. Why not? So we will be recording, just to let you know. And if please mute your audio so it doesn't distract others. We'll also provide a lot of resources at the bottom of the chat. So throughout, just copy and paste them onto your own system so that they don't disappear at the end. And we'll also, after all the webinars are finished, we will send the participants a copy of these resources. So because this is the last one this week, you'll probably get it tomorrow so that you can use them when making your films. And we'll also explain a bit about the Earthbeat Challenge 2021 and what awaits you after this webinar. So now, as we have limited time, I'm going to pass it over to Joerg, who is live with us right now, but will be on a recorded screen in a minute. So Joerg, over to you.
Well, my name is Joerg Altekruse. Thank you for the introduction. Tarquin. Now we've been making films together, so I'm just making fun. I'm the founder of Youth4planet, who is running the Earthbeat, who invented the Earthbeat and everything that is attached to it. We are running film courses in the tiny country of Luxembourg, but in Germany as well, in universities, schools, and many other places. I'm myself, I'm a filmmaker by profession, a film producer, television, cinema. I've just finished a co-production of a cinema film with a French company and a French director on an ecology topic, wind energy. So that's my background, and so I have developed together with others, of course, in practical terms, the concept that we are now promoting as the film-based learning and empowerment process, which is really developing future skills in terms of getting young people, especially young people, but I mean, 31 is still young, of course. I'm not saying that, But we have started courses with 6-year-olds who are sometimes very dedicated and very clear about their topics and what they really want to achieve. Of course, in their small environment, not in a global scale or global scope. So actually, filmmaking is something that has to do with empowerment, and it has to do with working in a team. And working in a team, that's one of the reasons why we said, even if you are older than 35, you can team up with younger people, because what we are doing here now with Tarquin and me and Tarquin, we are one generation apart, but we are still working in intergenerational dialogue because we can learn from each other. We have actually created a whole concept that has to do with COP26, which is taking place, and it's probably the largest conference on this planet on environmental topics. And it's not about environment only, it's about making a kind of global dialogue possible about something that is important to everybody. And of course, we know that for decades, some countries have taken all for the winners, and automatically the others were on the loser side. So, for example, taking resources out of countries and not paying much for it is a common practice. And so the situation with regard to climate we are in now is part of that situation. So this global dialogue that is taking place in Glasgow at COP26 is part of a larger discussion how to create something like justice and equal rights on this planet. And this will not happen automatically, so we have to work for it, and we have to demand it and dream of it in order to make it happen. So I just show you quickly what we have created to get to COP. We have designed media bikes that are electrically driven. They have a monitor inside. We can run events alongside these bikes, and they will travel across Europe 2,000 kilometers to COP and stop at certain stations here. This is a route via Paris, number 5 here, and going all the way up to Scotland in order to bring the ideas, the visions, the wishes of young people to the climate conference event. And eventually we will showcase all the films that have been entered in this cinema here. That will take place on the 5th of November. There will be other events, but what we will try to do, we will use these bikes here as rolling studios to transmit into the internet what is happening on site. So you can be sure that if you follow us, if you download the app that will be ready soon in a couple of weeks' time, the Youth4planet app, that you can not only join our goal, you can follow our bikes, you can follow our tracks, you can upload more films, new films that we can showcase in Glasgow and afterwards. So this is the starting point of a larger story that you can engage yourself in and take others and invite them to be part of that and become partners of your team. So that's my introduction. Tarquin, anything else? Muku is here. Hi, Muku.
Hi, Muku. Good to have you with us. That's all from me. I mean, I will be posting resources, as I said before, at the bottom of the chat. So just watch out for them and copy and paste them onto your system. Okay. Yes, we're going to play a recorded session.
Which is basically what we are going to do anyway.
Which is exactly what we were going to do anyway. Yeah.
And then we will have a live discussion. So when you post your questions in the chat, we will answer them afterwards. And this will be running for an hour and a bit. And we will let you know when we stop it. So when you post your questions in between, when you have them, we will read and recognize them, and we'll try to find an answer, of course, from our professional experience. And the power of storytelling has to do with what we want to achieve. We have a very difficult year to come. We have a climate conference upcoming, the Kids Climate Conference at Milano in Italy, first in beginning here in September in the next week. And we have the COP26, the climate conference of the parties in Glasgow starting on November the 1st. And this is really about the destiny of what's happening on this planet. And because we are all living on this together now, we have to somehow manage to find solutions together. And that's the reason why storytelling really is something that becomes very important to actually organize, because via stories and via images, we can communicate across cultures, across languages. We don't have to wait for other people to translate something. We are immediately there. So we have sound, we have music, we have images, and we have good stories in order to get our mission, and I'm talking about your mission, about your ideas across to other people. And what we will do with this Earthbeat challenge and the Earthbeat webinars and the Earthbeat tour that is leading to COP, we will create a opportunity for your films to be promoted, to be shown, to make a difference in different environments. What I can share with you here is a map of where we will be going. So this here, look at this. This is a tour starting in Luxembourg with bikes, 2,000 kilometers across Europe, here across the Channel, up all the way from England to Scotland and Glasgow. And so there will be lots of opportunities here in London, in Paris, down there as well, in Brussels, to talk with people, engage with them, and show some of your videos as well, to have and create talking points on topics that are important. So when you have something like a drought in your country or flooding in your country, you want to talk about, and you want us to know about it, then please make a film about it and share it. So then we can actually use our journey to the climate conference to actually get something done there. And the way we do it, we have bikes that we have created specifically for this purpose. I'll show you an older mock-up here, what is, but still it gives the idea of what it could be. So we have the bikes that allow us to communicate with you as well. So they are basically studios with monitors on the side. They can broadcast into the internet. They have cameras on board, and they are pop-up spaces and studios that travel from city to city and organize storytelling all along the way. And that's what the way how we actually start the Earthbeat journey to COP. It will begin in mid-October and will take us, as I said, 2,000 kilometers up north. Sorry we couldn't come to Africa, we couldn't come to Latin America this year, but next year, yes, we will do that. And so just follow our journey, and we will talk about that later. Storytelling is now our topic, and I will explain what this means actually. To make storytelling very easy, I think we have to access the inner working of how a story is told. The story is really something that is built into our genes, because whenever we were sitting, let's say, even when people couldn't talk, think back 100,000 of years. Now we were like apes sitting somewhere, and suddenly a lion would come up to the river and created a dangerous situation. And we were all dependent on the story, there's a lion. Now, so people have now were sort of showing images of a lion maybe, or drawing a lion into the sand in order to say, oh, there's danger, there's a lion. That's how storytelling started, really. So when we have this climate situation here, it's the same situation. There's a lion. Now it's the sun burning us all up because we made all this carbon dioxide come off the ground of millions of years when it's been stored underneath by the plants over millions and hundreds of millions of years. So now we are in this situation to really have a global call again, and that's why we need the power of storytelling. And already 500 years ago, we had somebody who is very wise, actually. Who was very wise, Leonardo da Vinci. And he was a very early inventor and painter, a very famous painter. Maybe you have heard of him. He created the first flying machines in his head, but he couldn't build them. And he said, study the science of art. Study the art of science, which means looking concretely at what is there. Develop your senses, especially learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else. And I specifically like this learn to see. And we have, with our mobile phones, we have devices where we can actually tell people what we see, and we ourselves can learn to see, and we can learn to look at things differently. And by making a film about it, we can take our perspective, what we see, to other people as well. So easy storytelling is something that I want to discuss with you. Maybe, Tarquin, you have some questions as well. The easy storytelling is really something about logic. It's a built-in logic into everything that we do. And when you analyze a film from Hollywood, for example, or Bollywood, you can find these structures in every detail of the story. And that is the and, but, therefore mechanism. The and, but, therefore mechanism is so simple that I have to explain it. The and situation is describing reality as it is, just without taking a standpoint. You know, it's saying, you know, like it's like looking around. You take your camera and you look around and you say, okay, this is an interesting image. This is an interesting image. Okay, and this is how I describe where I am. So I'm standing in the middle of a park, and I'm under a tree, so you can see the tree, and everything that you are telling us, you have to show. And by showing it, you bring us, the viewer, into your situation. That's the and. The but comes in when a story begins. So imagine this line again. So you're standing in the park under a tree, and suddenly a lion is turning up. Oh, danger. So now the story begins. You show, there's a lion. Music, no, danger comes up. You can describe this lion, and you know, people are screaming in the background, and maybe you show somebody who's screaming because he's so scared. And so then you have to find out, as a filmmaker, as an onlooker, I imagine you're not part of the scene, but you are looking at it. You're describing what you are doing. So you have to find out, ask questions. So what's happening? What are you so scared about? What is happening actually? When did it start? What can you do about it? Did somebody call the police or the lion catcher or whatever you need? So you just try to clear the situation, and you are taking us, the viewer, into the situation by explaining what you have decided to do, how you actually go onto a quest of finding out about what can be done now. That's the but. That's a question. It could be a journalistic question. So you do interviews with people. It could be a sort of thought process, and then you decide what to do next, and then you describe what to do next, and you do a little drawing, maybe draw a map and say, okay, in order to escape the lion, we have to go from here to there. No? Then you're describing this journey, how to get there. Okay, you have to climb over a fence and to escape it. So is that safe? Is it easy to get over the fence, and so forth? So that's the but situation. That's really the story point, and that's the longest part of your film, probably. Because you need some time to explore and ask questions and find out. And you really have to take us into this thought process. That's very important. Be authentic about what you're doing. And at the end, you land in therefore city. Because you were trying to find a way out. So imagine now, scared people are, when they enter a room, and in this case, enter a park, they are always scanning for ways out because they are scared. They're easily scared. And in this case, there's a lion. They are right. Now, there's a lion, and you have to be aware, where can I sort of escape when the lion is coming at me? So to answer this original question, how can I escape and how do I survive, and what can be done? Maybe catch the lion, find a net and catch him instead of running away. You describe this therefore. This is your vision. This is your, so it could be a fantasy as well. It could be a good vision of something that could be done, but maybe cannot be done now, but in the future. So imagine we had a net to catch the lion, then we could do that. So that's a call to action, is always have a net prepared to catch a lion. Huh? I mean, it's a funny example, but when you translate that into something else, imagine we were doing seminars in Africa, online seminars, and people have this difficulty that there is sudden rainfall. We have that in Germany as well, actually. So I'm from Hamburg in Germany. Sudden rainfall, lots of rain, flooding. Suddenly everything is washed away. And we have droughts in Africa. We have droughts in Germany now too, where a month and months without rain are happening. So what do you do with it? You need some kind of idea what to do in this very moment. So imagine you make a video to prepare for floodings. Okay, therefore, that's your therefore. So maybe build a wall, build a dam, something like that. Build your house on a higher place so that you are not inundated by water all the time. So there's always a way out, and that's something that you are building your story on. So that's your outcome of a story. Understood, Tarquin? Actually, so basically that's how we run Youth4planet as a storytelling learning activity. So in Luxembourg, for example, or in Germany, we have done seminars that were always starting with this co-creation process. Co-creation means that we build teams of people, and you know yourself, in a team, there's always someone who has an idea. So when you are three, you will always find, or four, you're always finding someone who has an idea, and then you can actually do something about this idea, and you take it into your project and discuss it, and you probably will reach an outcome much earlier than normal. Then you start making it. So once you have decided about your topic and the storyline, you will just produce it. And of course, you need, with the camera, you always need somebody to act in front of the camera and behind the camera. And behind the camera, you need somebody for the sound and somebody for the video recording. Sometimes you can all do it yourself. We will come to this technical process later. And then you have to share it. That's part of the process of filmmaking. Filmmaking is not just making a film for yourself. This is like mumbling in the shed for yourself. Now, nobody will listen, and then nothing will happen. So when you say, I've seen a lion and I want to talk about it, and I found a way out, and I will describe it to you, then you want as many people as possible to listen to that story. And I think it's very important then to share it and do everything in the way you tell the story, with music, with good sound, with good people, interesting storyline, to get this across. That's the most important part of your journey, actually, to make a story not only visible, but make it successful as well with your audience. And as I told you, because we are all people, everywhere on this planet, we have this wired system of understanding a good story immediately. That's the reason why Hollywood films or Bollywood films are working so successfully with the audience. They have billions of people watching a film sometimes for that very reason, because they know very well how to tell a story in such a way that it's compelling, that people want to see it. And I know from my experience that you can do it as well. Now, we have done it with 6-year-old kids, and they have found good stories for themselves and even won prizes with it. So it's possible, and I really want to inspire you to get started right away. At best, directly after the seminar.
Yes, just because we're limited for time here, so we have to keep moving. Joerg, just before we talk about questioning and the sorts of questions you might ask an expert, do you want to just quickly talk about how to identify your experts, the people that you might want to interview in your story? It might even be yourself.
Everybody actually is an expert. So when you go into a situation, let's say you have people in a park with this lion again. Everybody in this park is an expert, so to speak, because there are people who are anxious or scared, kids screaming. They are all experts because they are experts of just being people in a park with a lion. Second thing, there's maybe an expert on lions because he somehow happens to be there. Then you go to him and say, or her, what about the lion? What do we do about the lion? What is the best thing to do, actually? Should we kill it? Should we catch it? Should we just build a fence against it? So just look out for people who know something that you don't know yourself. And the people who are screaming, they are experts on emotions. So it's good to have emotions in the film, because then people will listen. if you have only people that are experts on facts, that's sometimes boring. So when you start with the emotion first, for example, because everybody will see the point, oh, there's a lion, I'm scared. Of course, everybody would be scared if you're standing in front of a lion. This is a good starting point, because you know, your audience will understand it as well, because they catch this angst, this moment, this feeling themselves, and they feel it themselves when they watch your film. But then you say, okay, there is more to this. So there's, you know, the scare, but there's something we can do about it. So now I'm asking people, let's say from the police or rangers or people who know something about lions, and in order to get to a better solution than just being scared. Being scared is not a solution. It's something that is natural, but it's not a solution. So that's, does that answer your question? Yeah. Maybe I just quickly return to this image here and the SDG global goals, because when we talk about the climate conference and what we are why we are doing storytelling, we are talking about the global goals as well. And the global goals are the first global activity that the UN anonymous, completely decided about. 93 states actually decided 6 years ago, we want to follow the global goals, and they are important for everybody on this planet. And this is something like no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, you name it, and we have it here. There are some missing, I agree, but maybe the last one here, the 16 and 17 are very important as well. They are about peace and justice and strong institutions, good governance, for example, what is missing in many countries, management of difficult situations, for example, and partnerships for the goals. So what we are doing, we are organizing partnerships for these global goals, because we are not bound to any of these goals. We are, of course, with Youth4planet, we are fighting hunger, and we want quality education. But what we mainly want to do is we want to bring all of you together in order to reach these goals in your country, in your vicinity, among your friends, and so forth, and in any way possible. So the partnership of these global goals is very important. And you can see here, I've got this here on my my sleeve here. That's very important for me as well, as something which has to be achieved in order to come to a certain point. So that's the storytelling that we were talking about. Tarquin.
Yes, I was just going to say a few words on how to ask the right questions. Once you've identified your experts, once you've identified the different people that want to offer a perspective to your film, it's important to just think about how you might phrase a question, or the type of question that you might ask them. So we like to follow a formula which includes the 5 W's plus a 1 H, which sounds a bit confusing, but it's actually very simple. So you really have to ask sometimes detailed questions to go with the main ideas. For each of the main ideas that you've identified in your development for that story, ask yourself these questions. So who is at the center of the story? Identify the characters in the story and simply make a list of them, and then draw connecting lines between the characters and describe to yourself the relationship between the characters.
So who would be the lion, yeah?
Yes.
Or would it be the child that is screaming?
Yes, exactly. The next question is what? So identify the events or actions and make a list of them. So again,
there's a line in the park.
yeah.
Sorry.
And then draw connecting lines between the events or actions to show the relationship between them again. And then you could even draw connecting lines between the characters and the events as you describe to yourself the relationship between them.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question is where? So the third W is where. Where is it happening? So in this place, in this situation, it's happening in a park. It's probably in a rural area with not many. There's not much help. There's not police. There's probably not any rangers. Identify all the places in your story and make a list of them. So where are all the different locations you might shoot? Where are the key locations central to your story? Then, like all the other ones, draw connecting lines between places, the events, and the characters as you describe to yourself the relationship among them. Mm-hmm. The next question is, when is it happening? So identify all the time factors in your story and make a list of them. So draw, again, the same thing, draw connecting lines between time factors, places, events, and characters as you describe to yourself the relationship between them. The next question is why. So why is it happening? Identify causes for events of actions, and again, make a list of them. Mm-hmm. So draw connecting lines from the causes to effects on the characters, events, places, or times as you describe to yourself the relationship among them. The final question is the H. So how is it happening? So this is really about identifying the way events took place and making a list of them. So draw connecting lines between the way events took place and other factors as you describe to yourself the relationship among them. So it's sometimes quite a good idea to outline all of this and to connect the lines through mind maps, where you've got the main ideas in the center and you've got all your different questions: where, who, what, when, why, how, and then to branch off from there, writing all the different parts of the story, trying to answer those questions yourself. And that will give you a really good starting point when you're sitting there and you're feeling a bit lost in your story and you're sort of wondering, how do I move forward? What's the next question I should be asking? This is always a reference point for you that you can always turn back to. This is your mothership of ideas, really. This is the headquarters of your film. This is where you can always think, well, why did I start this? What am I actually looking for? And how do I move forward? So that's just a very quick crash course on how to question.
Yeah. Now that's fine. And actually, I put this up. This is a slightly different order, but it means they are all the same questions, really. So you can just take a picture of this and use it for yourself. Mm-hmm. I think Tarquin.
Yes, I will put a link in I've actually got a link.
Yeah.
That I'll put in the chat. So if everyone wants to use that as well.
So that's something, very important. And maybe I just quickly step over to something that I call a research diary. That's in our background as well, in our background material that you can download. So the research diary is basically built on these questions. So when you go out and ask questions for yourself or in your team, you will actually find that you just write down what did I do. So I try to find experts, for example, and because there was no expert on a lion here in this park, I didn't find any. So then you write down here in the second park, oh, I couldn't find this expert here. Maybe, and then you take the third step, which is I have decided to look into the phone book and find someone on the phone. Now call up a animal park or something, where people are experts online. So this is a 3-step process, 1, 2, 3. And when you run through this process, you will find out that you will always create an outcome, a positive outcome for the next step. So you find something, you write it down, then you say, okay, but I couldn't get, I couldn't get further because suddenly I got sleepy. No? Somehow I was sleepy. Okay, so then you could write down, okay, I slept, and afterwards I was awake again. No? So it's always about overcoming difficulties and obstacles in order to reach the next step. And you will find that this is really accelerating your process of thinking and developing of a good story. Then there's another tool, I think it's a good context to show this. That's a script. This is just a Word document, a text document with a frame. But this is something that professionals are using to create a film script. And this film script, we have a complete English version there in our box, but it's in my presentation here like this. So you have always, you put your name up there, and then you have several pages, of course. You have here a kind of description of the image that you want to show. So we are flying in a helicopter in this case. So flight in the helicopter, starting at 0, 0. So that will be the first image of your film. Then you put in a frame that is describing the helicopter. You could put in any image that you have, or you can even draw one. Take a photo of it and put it there, just for you to remember, okay, it should be a good image of the interior of a helicopter. And then you write something down. And in this case, there's nothing there because it's just the first picture, and there is music and the sound of a helicopter. But the next image would be, what do I see from inside the helicopter? Oh, I'm flying across an ice sheet. In this case, it's Greenland, and that's how Youth4planet started its story. That was our visit to Greenland in order to tell a story for the climate conference in Paris 6 years ago, 2015, which was very important. So we took these images later to Paris and showed them in big cinemas. And then there is a text here starting, and it says, just imagine. And it's printed into the image as well. So that's the way how a film is starting its story. And you can build your story in a text file like this easily. And the good thing about a text file is you can always change order. So when you think, oh, this image of the ice sheet is more important or is more compelling for the audience, you just switch it around. No, I can't do it here, but you can do it easily, and then you create a different order. By the way, we have an app, the Youth4planet app, that you can download now, and this app allows you to actually create these stories and change order of concepts within the app together in a team as well. So that's something that is very important, that you free yourself from a certain order and say, okay, what is the logic of my story? And I want to have as compelling pictures and images and storylines in there as possible. In order to keep the audience watching. Now, we know from YouTube videos that the most difficult part is really after the initial start of a film, that people keep watching. So you don't want to lose your audience after a minute or so. So you always need to find a new and more compelling image to to keep your story going. So, and that's something that you build into the storyline here, actually, when you use a script. Tarquin?
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Joerg, for that. Shall we move on to the technical craft of smartphone filmmaking?
Yes, we can do that
Great.
easily. Well, actually, when we run real workshops, we tell people to have their smartphones ready immediately so that they can start making, let's say, an interview right away. So in order to do that, we have created an app and something that is a series of videos, and I show you the latest version of these videos in a second. So you will find them in our Dropbox as well, and so we will have them in the material that we present to you. Now let me just find it here. Material workshop. Ah, it's here. So on the screen. They're all very short, but it's useful to have them.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie from Youth4planet, and I'm very happy to welcome you here to our small video workshop. Here in this app you will get loads of information that will help you to be a filmmaker. You will see that the whole thing is really easy and of course also a lot of fun. So, I wish you all the best with your film project and I'm really looking forward to see the first results.
Okay, so that was the first film, and but it will be, of course, not the only one. So can you? No. Maybe I have to switch back. Yeah. Back on again.
So, when making films, we always take our smartphone in the horizontal position. This way, we achieve a supernatural picture and fill the entire screen. You may have used it a little differently, like for example on Instagram, when we walk around and want to record little stories. However, this way we have the problem that we end up with these two ugly black bars on the side. And of course, we want to avoid that. Therefore, always put your smartphone in this position while filming.
Now this is very clear, I think, because we want to fill the screen every time we actually start filming. Don't forget, when you start filming like this, and then you think, okay, I have to turn it around, the recording will stay vertical. So you have to stop first, then you turn it, and then you start again. But most editing programs allow you to turn the image afterwards as well. So everything is there. Don't think it will not be recorded, but you can sort of take your fingers and turn it around afterwards. So that's now about the light. Ask Jamie again. That's maybe the easier part here.
If you place a person directly in front of a light source while filming, such as a window, this happens. The person will be completely in a dark picture and therefore avoid it in any case and make sure that you always have the light source in your back.
Okay. Now Let's talk about the sound.
In addition to the light, the sound, of course, is also very important for the film. In the best case, you take a small microphone with a suitable adapter and plug it into your smartphone. Now, if you want to conduct an interview, please give the microphone to the people you want to interview so that they can put it on their collar themselves. Also make sure that the microphone does not touch the clothing itself, otherwise we will have rustle noises that can be really annoying. If you don't have an external microphone, you can also use the internal microphone of your smartphone. But please make sure that you don't get too close to the microphone, because then you have the problem that the recording may be overdriven. A good idea is to do a test recording before and check the sound so things like this don't happen.
Yeah. Do you agree, Tarquin? Okay, let's just continue. There are two more, actually.
With the golden ratio, you divide the camera display into 3/3. If you activate the insert grid function on your smartphone, you will see the auxiliary lines on your display. Now, if you position the person who you want to film on one of the external lines, you have a super pleasant picture and an attractive picture structure for the audience.
You see, it's very easy to do and very quick to understand. Now something about headroom.
Imagine the person you want to film has an apple on his head. If this apple is still clearly visible, you have the perfect setting and the perfect headspace for your recording.
That's basically it. That's the way we need to get to a good recording. So once the recording has taken place, you have to have enough space on your smartphone, of course. And something that you have to take care of. So when you record something, make sure that you have enough space for the editing process as well. Or you use some kind of online device so that you can upload this online onto Dropbox or some other place where you can actually share your video with other people. And then you can free your phone from the file unless you use it for editing. So that's very important. It sometimes is frustrating when you start recording something and then suddenly it says, oh, sorry, your phone is full. We can't keep on running anymore. So that's something that you should really take care of while you're doing it. But I'm pretty sure that you will manage that quite easily. I will show you now what we have in the background as some, there is more technical advice on our website or in the website that Tarquin is providing for you. We have all sorts of material, and one part of the material is actually a handbook that you can download for yourself, and there you find more material for making things happen. But the most important part is here. You will find QR codes all along the way, and when you follow the QR code with your phone, for example, you will find a website to download more material. So the handbook in itself is short, only 36 pages, and you find a lot of things that we've talked about before here. about learning stages, and you will find film examples here. We talk about the storytelling, the SDGs, how to set up a story, and then you find all the templates here as well, the worksheets and how to set up a story. It's all there. Then you find something about the setup, the interview, how to do an interview, where to place a person for an interview. This picture. Then we talk about the different movie sizes, image sizes that we are creating. And this is something, once you have seen it for the first time, you can easily understand that whenever you tell your story, you need an overview. That's the super long shot. Where are we? So we are in the park. Now, what is a park? You can't just show one tree. You have to show many trees in order to create the image of a forest or a park. So that's the long shot or super long shot. Then you have the half long shot, which is maybe a number of trees. Already you see the line in the background, but it's very far away still. The long shot is sort of the in between, the half long shot and a kind of middle ground. The American shot is something that is sort of showing people already, a person, but not the entire person, but it's from the belly upwards. It's the American position. It was used in Hollywood or developed for Hollywood cinema first, when they thought about how to actually do something. What you can do with your phone, that's very easy. So when you do a selfie, you are normally in half close or close up. So in half close, you need some other person to film you. In close, you can hold your phone, and that's about the distance that you can get with your arm. With a wide angle lens on your phone. The large shot is really important because then you can see a face properly. You can see what the wrinkles around the eyes. You can see what a person is really thinking. You can see in the face, and that's a large or close-up shot. So something in between maybe. And you can see again here the placement of the person here. The eyes are placed here ideally in the sort of just above the middle line of this shot. And there's still some room here above the face in this case. Or here, think of the apple again. Now the apple is here. But you sort of always create something where the person is having some space, and even in this case there's a good space on the left side where you are not showing anything. So make sure when you show people that they have not much noise in the background and not much going on in the background. So when you have people running around behind her back and you see that in the close-up even, or in the large shot, then you are irritated and you're distracted, and you want to see this beautiful girl all on her own and not in the context of millions of people around her. The detail shot, that's very interesting. You can, with your phone, you can really do detailed shots. I really love that feature because you can look at things that are very tiny. Think of a snail or an ant. You can follow an ant and do a close-up and just try it. It's so interesting to show something that is so small that normally you don't see it. But with your phone, you can show it to people. You can say, look at this beauty. Now this ant walking all along the way, and it's leaving a trail that other ants can follow her. Isn't that great? That's nature now and evolving, and that's nature how it's best. That's something you buy showing something, especially in detail or in close-up, you say, I love that. I want to show you something that I think is important for me. Yeah? So, and you, by showing something like an eye in such a detailed position here, you create a relationship between this detail and the audience. That's very important. Yeah, this kind of relationship, that is very important. But of course, you know, only detail is not enough, because then you can't see the context. We want to see it all. We want to see something from underground. So that's maybe the fish eyes view from up, you know, in the water, but you want to see it from above, you know, the overview. You want to see it from the distance, and you want to see the close-up. And all is important to understand a certain situation. So think of the lion, you think of the situation, you see the park, you see, suddenly you hear the sound of people screaming, then you show the close-up of the lion, then you show the close-up of the kid screaming and running away in despair. Then you show some parents coming up and say, well, what's happening here? And then they see the lion as well. Then you show the parents in close-up. Then you show the lion again. So you construct the scene of what you see in images, in detailed images, and edit them one after the other in order to create a situation. And then you can go back to, let's say, a half-close position, or even an American or long shot position where you actually get an overview again. And then you see people running around all the time in the park, running away. And so that's very important for orientation again. But when you come to a solution, let's say somebody is climbing up a fence in order to escape, then you show the fence and you show this person climbing up, and you can do a close-up or you can do a half shot in order to tell the story as well. But it's most interesting when you actually show how this person is really trying to sort of climb up the fence in order to get across, and maybe the lion is now just right behind him or her. So that's something that is very important for storytelling. Use the power of the different images and the quality of the different images that you can make. And by editing them, we will talk about that again later, you can actually create something beautiful out of that. Beware when you actually use material that you copy from other places. Always make sure, especially when you want to publish this film and want to convince other people, make sure that you ask the people that you're filming, unless they are public faces like politicians, you can film them anyway. But when you film your friends and family, ask them beforehand, will you allow this to be published? I'm making a film about lions in a park. So when you're screaming, can you allow me to film your screaming face? And then people say, actually, I was really scared and I agree. Or they say, oh no, this is not beautiful enough. I don't like myself in this image. Then they say no. And then you have to say, oh, sorry, I can't have that image in my film. No? That's very important. But there are pages, and you find this in the handbook, Unsplash, for example, or Pixabay, where there are images that you can download for free. So when you are not having a lion for the story, you can find a lion scene at Unsplash, for example, that you can put in there. If it's credible, that's fine. Otherwise, you just draw a line on a piece of paper and say, that's a line. And then people will believe it, and that's fine. And the same is happening with music. Especially music is one thing that is most important. When you upload a film and you have taken music that you don't own the rights for, then YouTube will not upload, or they will immediately say, oh, sorry, this music belongs to so-and-so. So please make sure that you ask your friends to make music, and there are free licenses for music available on different sources. Always look out for these free sources. Sometimes people, sometimes people say, I want to have I'm granting a CC license, but I'm granting this license only when you mention my name at the end of your film. Then you put the name of the musician in the last image of your film and say music made by or created by. And of course your name as well, when you know, because you are proud you made this film. So that's another important thing, part of your film to think about. And then we have some film examples of what children and young people created, beautiful examples of what can be done really and how this can be done. And then we have these different layers of the film that you will be aware of eventually when you make a film. Shall I just quickly go through them, Tarquin?
You can do. We're a bit pushed for time. I don't think we're going to focus on any of the editing, but all of that information is in this handbook, and I will share it again at the end. So I've sent a Dropbox folder. Well, I forwarded a Dropbox folder, which is now in the chat for everyone. And this contains the handbook and the research diary and even the PowerPoint presentations. You can look over that and some other useful resources. So if you're sitting there going, oh, flip, I'm not going to remember this, then you can always return back to the handbook. Yeah,
perfect. So basically, this is showing the different layers of a film. I'm just running quickly through this. So of course, you have the topic, the beginning, the title, very important to sell your film to the audience, and by saying, oh, this is something, it's about a lion. Now, a lion in the park. And suddenly people will be saying, oh, there's something I want to watch. Then you have, of course, all the important parts of the sound, the atmospheric sound, the soundtrack that you're creating from it, the music, which is part of the soundtrack, of course. Then you have the titles in the film, subtitles. Sometimes when you have a narration or an interview with people in a foreign language that people don't understand. Then you have the protagonists, of course, the people you are interviewing or that actually play as actors in your film. You have the end titles, we were talking about that. So lots of things to think about. You can download this as well here at the end. So I think that's for now about this topic, huh, Tarquin?
Yes, I mean, I think that's a good summary of all the different modules that you can find in the handbook. And on some of these resources that I've put in the chat. I mean, I think it's important to just explain a bit about the Earthbeat Challenge and the opportunities.
Don't forget about editing.
Yes, I mean, we could do it. I mean, let's do a quick summary of editing as well. I mean, I'm going to put Filmora Go, which is a free editing app that people can download on Android or iOS on your smartphones. Maybe you want to give a quick tutorial.
iMovie is better actually. So, but the basic idea of editing is very simple. You create images that you just will follow. I have to enter my. Oh no, I can share my editing program here actually, which I did before. Maybe that's a good idea. So I use DaVinci. The editing is basically putting your images together in a certain order. And like with the text, you can always change that order. And by changing the order, you're changing your storyline. So this seems, what I share now seems to look very difficult, but it is not, in fact, because it's very logical. And I love logic, as you know now, over everything. So when you have an editing tool like this is DaVinci Resolve. It's free and you can download it on any laptop in any system. And so you have something that is put in here, which is the inboarding part. These are your raw images, the ones that you have shot. In on your phone, you can you will be asked where do you want to find the image, and then you go to your image collection and where you have recorded your scenes. Then you can say tip, 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 and I want to have them in there. So imagine that happened here. So now you have your story parts here, and basically what you are doing is you're pulling these parts onto a timeline here like this, and then when you put this onto the timeline, you will be able to edit it. I can show you a different view here. So you just pull it down here, and suddenly it's there, and then you play it.
Bioökonomie.
Yeah. So that's basically so I think there's a way, again, that's a way you just edit something, and you can see on this part here of the screen, you see the final image of what you have created. So you can just watch here. You see when I play this.
Plastik. Rein. Doch wie können wir...
So so actually you see this picture here. This is the one, yeah, up here. And you can even move it here to another place.
Doch wie können wir da hinkommen?
Then it will be moved. And I move it back to this position here. And you can see this is
Doch wie können wir da hinkommen? Das wollen wir von euch wissen.
And you can see here these are the parts where the images are changing. So this is a different scene that we have put here behind the other scene, and now that's setting up a film basically. And at the end, the film is now you have the titles at the end, and that's it. That's pretty easy to understand. And as I said, you create an order in your film, and the other part here is to export the film. So one thing that you can do is you do mixing of your sound. In this case, again, it sounds complicated, but you can have many options, and we have only two sources the music is coming from, which is left and right in this case. But you can see
Macht aus eurer Idee ein kurzes Video.
That down here in this lower section on the right hand side, you see the final outcome, and there you can sort of increase the level of sound or decrease it, which is very important to have at the end, so that there's no overdrive on your sound. And you can on this panel up here, you can change the relationship between music and, let's say, a narration and the environment, the background noise and atmospheric sound and so forth. So that's where you can you actually create the sound of your film. And just to be clear, the sound is probably more important than the image. And the reason why this is, the sound goes into your ear, and you can't close your ear. Of course, you can always close your ears, by doing this, but you can close your eyes and not see something. No, when you're scared, for example, you see something that you're scared of, but the sound is always there, and it's going directly into your brain. So that's the reason why music is so important in film, because it helps your brain to sort of take the film in, or the sound of the film and the story, the narration, into the head directly, because the music is pleasant and is helping you to make this understandable for the audience to listen to. So the sound is very important. And at the end, what you do is actually you export this. You have your film here. This is the outcome of the film here. And on the left-hand side, you say, okay, I want to put it up on YouTube. And then you click on YouTube, and suddenly you have now the setup, the ideal setup of all the parameters for YouTube that you want to have. So it's an HD file, it has a certain format, it has stereo sound and a certain codec. And then you say, okay, I want to add this to render. Render means play. Now all the different parts, play them in a certain order to make it into one film, which is then one file with all the different parts that you have edited here, cut together, and play them onto a timeline. And then you actually can share this video online with any, let's say, Vimeo or YouTube or wherever you want to share it, or you upload it to the Earthbeat Challenge website, which is probably the best place to be. Yeah. So there's another question. Hi, I was wondering if you could talk a bit about story development. Yes, I will quickly do that, which means story development is something that comes out of a situation. So let's say you have a certain idea, and you, for example, we had this story of people finding their environment overrun by plastic bags because people didn't take care. So the story they developed was, we want to show that we can make people aware of the situation, and we show them what to do, what kind of action to take. So that's what they did. So they organized a community workshop where people learned how to how to collect the plastic and where to put it, and they filmed it all along the way. So they developed the story of action. They made this action happen, filmed it, and then made a film about the story of action. So eventually they had so they had both. They had action and the story. So when we think about our awards, we think about how can create a story that has an impact in real life. And everything that we do practically has an impact in real life. And when we make a film about it, we actually make a film about action. And it could be a call for action. So at the end, there could be this saying, okay, you can do it as well. Now we have collected our rubbish. Now you can do it in your village as well. Why not get started now? This would be your call to action at the end of your film, your final destination in therefore city. So always think of a story as a beginning and an end, and you can find stories wherever you are. Actually, you pick something up. Let's say you take a piece of soap. This is soap. Now it's shampoo really, but it's a bar of soap. But when you take the soap, it has a story to it. So it has been produced in a certain way, and it has been put into this box in a certain way. So when you imagine you have a plastic bottle with a shampoo in it, made from crude oil, then you have a different story. And the crude oil, of course, then in the end, when you put it out into the ocean, then it can create some issues there, because you have plastic in it and you have artificial stuff in there. So when you think about how to change that story, the story of crude oil being taken to create shampoo, put it into a crude oil produced plastic bottle, and then bring it out into the ocean, and you can see the plastic bottle swimming in the ocean in the end. Okay, that's the bad side of the story. So then you tell the story how you change it. You say, I take different ingredients. I take non-toxic ingredients into my soap. I make a soap bar out of it, and then it can go into the ocean without harm. No? And so you describe how you analyze the story first, the story of shampoo, and then how you made a change to it. And this is empowering, because then people say, okay, I understand, I can make a change for myself, a little change, because when the next time I buy shampoo, I'm looking out for a dry shampoo made from natural products and not from crude oil. No artificial soap. So you find stories anywhere, really. Take anything that you have in your environment, in your vicinity, and you convert it into a story by analyzing how did it get there and where will it end up. So whenever you have something that is artificial, you will find that this has been produced somewhere, maybe in China, in India, in Guatemala, wherever, and it has a transportation story. It came to you, you will use it, it has a certain lifespan, and then it has a story of now where it will end up, on a dump, in the ocean, and on the shore, lake shore or something, or in your vicinity. So, and then you analyze the story and make a change to the story and say, okay, that's how it should be. My vision is that this is changing. I don't want this plastic bag to end up on my lakeshore, because whenever I go walking there, it's dirty. Now it will stay there for hundreds of years if I don't take it away, if nobody takes it away.
Yeah, do you have, just another question, do you have a kind of video example of what you're talking about?
Of course, I can show you a little video. We have lots of videos, but you can, let's say, I'll show you this one here. That's a good one. That's because it's hand drawn, and it's a 1 minute long story, and it's beautifully narrated.
To explain the term land grabbing, we want to give you a short example. This is Bob. For many years, he has been living happily on his small farm in A country, where he produces potatoes, carrots, and tomatoes. Close to his farm, there are many other farms just like his. One day, a rich and powerful company arrives that is interested in the farming land and is willing to pay a high price. Bob and his friends can no longer afford to stay on the farms they were working on for many years. The big company uses its newly acquired land to produce corn, a profitable energy plant that it sells to foreign markets. In contrast to Bob, it uses big machinery and pesticides to be as productive as possible. This process creates different negative consequences for Bob and A country. First, Bob loses his way of making a living. Second, the local economy of A country does not profit from the investment. Third, through the monocultural way of cultivating, as well as the use of pesticides, the soil and its ecosystem suffer.
what you can see here, this is 1 minute and has music and narration to it. And it's a so-called explainer video. So imagine you have something complicated that other people have difficulties to understand. You can, within your film, you can create an explainer part. This is part of a larger video of 12 minutes to talk about land grabbing. So they have lots of interviews and lots of ideas in the film, but in order to explain something, how it actually works, they use this form to just draw it, and you can see they accelerated just the video and edited it so that fitted it into 1 minute, and then they narrated the text to it. Very simple, but very effective, because I've never seen such a good explanation of land grabbing before. Now, how it actually works around the planet. And so imagine you develop a story like this, in your film, and that's a sub-story. But it's absolutely essential if you want to talk about land grabbing, so that people really understand well what you are talking about.
Do you have any free softwares for animation, doodle making, as Tarek has said? Any free sort of animation softwares or?
Well, this is something you have to find on the internet. There are loads of them, actually. So whenever we work with students, they found it themselves, because it's always changing. Now some are up, others are down again. I can't give you a complete source of that, but you just use any kind of research machine to find it, and I'm sure you will find it. Can you show you just
These are the top 3 on Google. They're free kind of animation software programs.
Yeah,
I think mostly for kind of marketing videos and stuff, but they're still, you could also use them for your films.
If it suits your story, I think this is something that you can easily find there. I'll show you just a quick example, one last example here of an animation software that was used to create a film about cancer. And the way they did it, they played these roles themselves, and they used this software to change the characters, and you will see what they look like now.
Hello everyone, my name is Grace. Hi Grace.
The house is a mess. She doesn't clean anymore. She's always tired. Now I'm the one that will take care of it. And you know I'm a man. That is not my responsibility.
So actually how they did it, they played their roles, and they were all sitting in different countries. So they made actually a film with actors by playing the roles themselves, recorded it, edited it, and then they put the software above it to really put artificial eyes on their faces. And this really changed the style completely. So it made it a more general story, the way they did it. I couldn't tell you what kind of software they used, but this is a very good way to actually make a story that is sort of now coming to a new dimension of storytelling.
If you want to stay connected beyond this webinar and meet all the other Earthbeaters who are all around the world making films at the same time, then I'm going to put it in the group chat one more time. There it is. There's the WhatsApp group. The other key piece of information, which I realize we haven't explained, although will be on the Earthbeat Challenge page, is there is a deadline for the Earthbeat Challenge, which is the 30th of September. Looking at the calendar, that's 2 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more than enough time to make a smartphone film, especially only 3 minutes long. As we said, the story is on your street. You don't have to go very far. You've now got all the tools on an online folder for you. We're at the other end of an email. So let's get going. Let's fire the gun and get going on these next 2 weeks of filmmaking.
Okay.
Great.
Oh, let's say goodbye.
Yes.
Oh, it's almost
goodbye
in our place here.
I know it's almost midnight now.
Yeah.
You can hear it in my voice, and voice is croaky. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye then.